Hello and welcome to Daily Prelims Practice. Here we are going to take up the MCQs based on today's newspaper of The Hindu and Indian Express, which are important from UPSC Prelims exam perspective. The topics for today's discussion are listed on your screen. So let us start the discussion. The first question of today's discussion is based on this news article which has appeared on the page number 6 in The Hindu. It basically talks about curbing the individualism in public health, and it says we should abandon the individualistic solutions to deal with the health problems. For example, the problem of undernutrition is being dealt with the individualistic solutions such as micronutrient supplements. Further, the article talks about holistic solutions to the health problems such as population-based approach, social justice, and prevention of diseases. This article also talks about the flagship scheme of Government of India, which is Ayushman Bharat, to deal with the public health problems. And you all are aware that flagship schemes of Government of India are important from our exam perspective, so this area becomes important for our discussion. Before solving the practice MCQ, have a look at this question which has appeared in the year 2016 in UPSC, and it says, with reference to Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, consider the following statements. In this question, you have to identify the correct statements from the given two options. You can pause this video and try to solve this question. Now moving on to the practice MCQ, which says, with reference to Ayushman Bharat, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, consider the following statements. In this, you are given three statements and you have to identify the correct statements out of these. The first statement says, it will provide a cover up to 10 lakh rupees per family per year for secondary and tertiary care hospitalization. Now, it is an incorrect statement because the health insurance in this scheme is provided up to 5 lakh rupees and not 10 lakh. The second statement says the households included are based on deprivation and occupational criteria of Socioeconomic Caste Census 2011. It is a correct statement as the households are included based on Socioeconomic Caste Census 2011 for rural and urban areas respectively. Hence, this statement becomes correct. The third statement says PMJAY is fully funded by government and cost of implementation is shared between central and state governments. It is a correct statement as the cost of implementation is shared between center and state governments. Further, you must be aware that PMJAY is the world's largest health insurance scheme which is fully financed by the government, and there is no restriction on the family size, age or gender, and the benefits of the scheme are portable across the country. It means a beneficiary can visit any empaneled public or private hospital in India to avail the cashless treatment of the scheme. As you have to identify the correct statements in this question, the answer to this question becomes D, which is 2 and 3 only, and the answer to the previous year question is B, which is 2 only, as there is no such provision of uniform premium for the crops and farmers have to pay different premiums for different crops like for Rabi or Kharif. Hence, this statement becomes incorrect and second statement is correct. So the answer to this question becomes B. The next question of today's discussion is based on this news which has appeared on page number 14 in The Hindu. It talks about the acceleration in the growth of direct tax revenue in India. As taxation is an important theme in Indian economy, we must be aware about the key facts related to direct tax and indirect tax. Now back in 2017, UPSC has asked a question on tax revenue. In this, you have to identify the correct statement from the given two options. On the similar lines, we have designed one practice MCQ on taxation. And it says, with reference to taxation in India, consider the following statements. You have to be very careful whether the question is asking about correct or incorrect statements. In this question, you have to identify the incorrect statements. The first statement says, broadly, 50% of the gross tax revenue comes from direct taxes. It is a correct statement as in the recent economic survey, it is mentioned that 50% of the tax revenue comes from direct tax sources. The second statement says, securities transaction tax and corporation tax are part of direct taxes. It is again a correct statement as both of these are part of direct taxes apart from personal income tax. The third statement says direct tax is regressive in nature. Now what does this regressive means? Regressive means the burden of taxation is more on those who have low income than the higher income earners. And direct tax is a progressive tax, not regressive tax, which means the tax rate increases with increase in income. So the answer to this question becomes B, which is 3 only. And the answer to the previous year question is D, which is neither 1 nor 2. In this question, there is one catch with which you can easily solve this question. If you closely look at these statements, the word steadily is mentioned in both of them. And whenever you come across such extreme keywords, you should be very cautious that this statement might be incorrect. And in this question, both of these statements are incorrect and the answer becomes D. Here you can see the composition of taxes in the gross tax revenue in India. The maximum share 29% is of GST. At the second place there is corporation tax with 25% and same percentage share of tax on income other than corporation tax. Excise duties has a share of 15% and customs has a share of 6%. Try to remember these figures roughly. Moving on to the next question, which is based on this news which has appeared on the page number 8 in Indian Express. It talks about the 0R, which is a parliamentary device used by the parliamentarians to raise their concerns which are of public importance. It is in news because Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary has raised a matter on internal security during the 0R. Such devices plays an important role in Indian political system and it makes the government of the day more accountable toward its people. Now back in 2017, UPSC has asked this particular question, which says the Parliament of India exercises control over the functions of Council of Ministers through the following measures. In this, you have to identify the correct answer. You can pause this video and try to solve this question. In the similar lines, we have framed one MCQ for today's discussion, and it says, consider the following statements regarding 0R. In this, you have to identify the correct statements. The first statement says, 0R is mentioned in the rules of procedure. Now this statement is incorrect as 0R is not mentioned in the rules of procedures. It is an informal device which is available to the MPs to raise matters without notice. The second statement says for raising matters during 0R, MPs must give notice to Speaker or Chairman on the day of sitting. It is a correct statement as MPs must give notice to the Speaker or Chairman by mentioning the subject they wish to raise in the House. The third statement says Speaker or Chairman cannot decline a member to raise a matter of public importance. It is again an incorrect statement as 0R is a time when members can raise issues of urgent public importance, but Speaker or Chairman may allow or decline a member to raise a matter of public importance. As you have to identify the correct statements, the answer to this question becomes B, which is 2 only. And the answer to the previous year question is D, which is 1, 2 and 3, as all of these are the devices which helps in controlling the functions of Council of Minister by the parliamentarians. Moving on to the next question, which is based on this news which has appeared on the page number 15 in Indian Express. It talks about the flex fuel vehicles which are set to meet the BS6 regulations. As there is growing thrust towards decarbonization of transport sector, the automobile companies are focusing more on environment friendly fuels. The flex fuel is such kind of invention which helps in reducing the environmental pollution from transport sector. Such inventions are important from our UPSC exam perspective as in 2019, UPSC has asked a particular question on hydrogen enriched CNG fuel. In this, you have been given 4 statements. Out of them, you have to identify the correct statements. You can pause this video and try to solve this question. On the similar lines, we have designed one practice MCQ which says flex fuel vehicles have engines that can run on combination of petrol and ethanol, which can include up to 100% ethanol. The second statement says automobile and auto components of flex fuel vehicles are included in production linked incentive scheme. In this question, you have to identify the correct statement. The first statement is correct as flexible fuel vehicle is an alternative fuel vehicle which is designed to run on more than one fuel, which is usually petrol or gasoline blended with ethanol or methanol. So it is a correct statement. And in order to accelerate the introduction of flexible fuel vehicles have been included in the production linked incentive scheme. Again, it is a correct statement. So the answer to this question becomes C, which is both 1 and 2. And the answer to the previous year question is B, which is 2 and 3 only. Moving on to the next question, which is based on this news, which has appeared on page number 10 in The Hindu. It talks about the Energy Conservation Bill, which helps in regulating the carbon emissions, as reducing the carbon emission is an important measure to tackle the climate change. Carbon emissions is an important theme in our environment section, and UPSC has previously asked many questions in such regard. In the year 2016, UPSC has asked a question on Uday scheme. In this, you have to identify the correct option. On the similar lines, we have designed one practice MCQ which says, consider the following statements with reference to Energy Conservation Building Code. In this, you have to identify the correct statements. The first statement says, ECBC sets minimum energy performance standards for residential and commercial buildings. The second statement says, code is applicable to new buildings of connected load of 50 kilowatt or above. The third statement says, state governments have flexibility to modify ECBC to suit local or regional needs. In this question, you have to identify the correct statements. The first statement is incorrect, as ECBC sets the energy performance standards only for commercial buildings and not for residential buildings. So this statement becomes incorrect. The second statement is again incorrect, as the code is applicable to the buildings of connected load of 100 kilowatts or above. And the third statement is correct, as state governments have been given flexibility to modify the ECBC code. So the answer to this question becomes B, which is 3 only. And the answer to the previous year question becomes D, as UDAY scheme provides for the financial turnaround and revival of power distribution companies. The last question of today's discussion is based on this news, which has appeared on page number 10 in The Hindu. It basically talks about the policy on the rare diseases. It is a news because the Rajya Sabha member of Nationalist Congress has raised the concern that benefits of the policy are not reaching to the patients. As you all are aware that the national policies are important from our exam perspective, and UPSC has previously asked many questions on the national policies. Before solving the practice MCQ, have a look at this question, which came in the year 2021 in UPSC Prelims exam. It talks about the hereditary diseases. In this, you are being given 2 statements and you have to identify the correct one. On the similar lines, we have designed one practice MCQ. It says, with reference to National Policy on Rare Diseases 2021, consider the following statements. In this question, again you have to identify the correct statements. The first statement says, the policy has categorized rare diseases in 3 groups. The second statement says, the financial assistance under the scheme has been limited to BPL families only. The first statement is correct, as the diseases has been categorized into 3 groups. The group 1 includes the disorders which are amenable to one-time curative treatment. Group 2 includes the diseases which requires long-term or lifelong treatment. And the third group includes diseases for which definitive treatment is available. So this statement is correct. And the second statement is incorrect, as the national policy will provide financial support to the 40% of total population who are qualified for Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So this statement becomes incorrect, and the answer to this question becomes A, which is 1 only. And the answer to the previous year question is also A, which is 1 only.